Johnny and James.
They are easily led.
Welcome back to Easily Led, the miniature wargaming podcast that will put the fire in your belly and help you slay that grey. I'm Johnny from Johnny Watson Gaming, and I'm joined here with James from Scruffy Crow. And we've got a slightly new look with us today. We're actually on camera. James, how are you?
I am well. Technological issues aside.
Well, it's technology advancement for us. We've actually got some cameras on.
Yeah, took a little bit of work there, didn't it?
It did. We got there. We've been doing for about 2 hours doing this.
Not quite that long. Almost.
Anyway, James. So this is episode 2 of season 2.
It is.
It was almost episode 3, but we messed that one up.
Yeah, no. So, technology again. Hopefully we've got that fixed.
So episode 2, and please, James, let's just go through what we are going to be talking about today.
Today, we were going to talk about house rules, what we think of them, when we've used them. I think they're a big part of what a lot of people do for wargaming. And I think that there's quite a few mixed feelings. We're going to have a chat about that.
Good. Sounds good to me. Before we get into that, though, should we sort of do any sort of news roundup, whether it's us, what we're painting, what we're doing, or any particular news that you feel is worth bringing to the forefront in the hobby? So for me, paint-wise, I've finished my unit of 20 goblins, which took me about 2 years to do.
They are looking very nice, though.
Thank you very much. I think I've got a little video. I'll do a little showcase video of them in the next probably day or two, so that'll be on my YouTube. So I'm glad that's done. And I think I'm getting really tempted as well at the moment with the new Warlord Epic Waterloo. I keep looking at it and I keep thinking,
don't do it. You don't need more small, tiny little fellas. Paint the stuff you got.
I know, but
I've not. No, it's not. I was almost about to tell a massive lie there. Carry on.
I just keep looking at it and just think, I want that.
No.
And
is all the rest of your small scale stuff done? All that Civil War stuff painted and ready, right?
Well, most of it. I have played a game. I've had a game of that, and I loved it as well. And that's what's kind of getting me. But then it is, I don't know. It's just been mulling through my mind. I probably won't yet, anyway. So, yourself, James, what have you been up to?
I'm trying to think if there's been any news or anything. There was the sort of Las Vegas releases for all the Games Workshop stuff, hasn't there?
Yeah,
that was massively disappointing.
We've got the new Avatar, haven't we?
New Avatar, new Morgan Ra, and all that stuff. Looks kind of like the old stuff, but slightly tackier, I think. So, great.
A lot of people are loving the new Avatar. Personally, I think it's a good model. I hate the flames on it. Why put the flames on it? It just looks awful. But in general, the model's okay. Is it better than the old one? No, I don't think it's better than the old one, but it's an okay model. It's a nice model.
Yeah,
it looks like it's big. It looks like it's huge.
Oh yeah, it will be huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like things like the Morgan Ra, it's like so similar to the old sculpt in some ways, but just without the charm, I think. But obviously, it's probably a third bigger as well. But
bigger's better, isn't it? In GW's world, bigger is better.
I guess so. I mean, we always used to joke back in the day when they brought out Apocalypse that eventually we'd just get like suits that we could wear and just.
that's the come, mate. That's
duke it out, just big shoulder pads on, we'll be away.
That's happening, definitely. That should happen as well.
1-to-1 scale Games Workshop. Eventually, we'll just be in the warp, just fighting demons.
Kind of hope that doesn't happen, but hey.
For hobby, I've been working on some more Warp Miniatures Kobolds, so they're going to be the Warp Miniatures Digital Workshop February release. I've got them a couple of days early.
And did you? Are they the ones you did the video on?
So yeah, I did. So that was the January release ones. I think they came out pretty nice.
Next release. You've got the next release.
I've got the February release.
Oh, nice. I haven't. You haven't shown me them.
I've only had them a very short while. They've only been ready a very short while, I think. I don't know what order everything's going to come out on, because potentially the beginning of that video is going to come out before we see this. So if it's February now, guys, go and check my channel. They are pretty cool little models. Actually, we've got Weasel Riders.
Okay, cool, nice. Do you think they're as good as the ones you had in January?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And the characters are pretty cool as well.
Okay, yeah, because it's sort of more sort of squaddy guys, the first of lot, wasn't it? So this is you're going to get some characters now.
Two more characters, and then the cavalry.
Brilliant.
So it's cool.
Yeah, nice. I'll look out for that. Still can't believe you didn't show me them, but hey, there you go.
Well, it's a secret. It's a secret. So I'm just telling all everyone here.
You're in cahoots with Warplot.
Well, I think we both get. He shares my video when I make it. I get his files a couple of days early.
Nice.
So yeah, thanks. Not much else going on.
No, yeah, it really isn't. Especially in my world, it's daddy world at the moment for me. So yeah, not too much at all. So should we crack on with today's topic then, James? Do you want to? It's probably best you kick this one off. This one's your brainchild. This one, so let's go.
Yeah. So house rules. I'm going to start off. So this is going to be a bit of an idea that I have for future episodes. Actually, I'm going to start off by giving you my thoughts on it. I'm not a fan. I don't really. I think if a game needs house rules, it's not necessarily a game I want to play. I'm kind of snobby about it, and I think if you need to put a house rule in, it means that something about the original rules has let you down.
Okay.
So that's my stance at the beginning. And then we'll see, because I think quite often I have an idea about when I think of these topics, and then we have a chat about it for a while, and often my mind gets changed a little bit. So
yeah, it's happened a couple of times now, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I'm laying out what I think at the beginning, and then we'll see if I change my mind.
I like that. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Okay, so with that bit of nugget of information you've just given me there, that you're totally dead against it.
Not totally dead against. I just think that they're not good. They're not necessarily a good thing.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think on the type of games that you will. House rules are sort of there to make things a little bit more friendly. I think that's when a house rule really comes in, is to make it friendly, to make it not ridiculously OTT. So if there's a character that's just so ridiculous, or I quite often you see a house rule come in to make the game a fairer game. So maybe there's a faction that for whatever reason is well overbalanced, and you just want to play a couple of fun games with each other, and you do something, either whether you nerf the other team, that particular team, or you say there's certain characters that can't be brought, or stuff like this. I think that's a very easy way of changing the rules or house rules, but not necessarily losing anything from the game.
Yeah, personally. No, I could agree with that. But but if the original rules have been written in such a way that character is OTT or not very fun to play with or against, then I get that. That's a failing in the thing.
It is, but it's also one of those things where sometimes it's hard to know if a character is going to be OTT until it's played a lot, I suppose, until it's really out there, until in the meta. They do play testing, of course they do, and well, depending on what company you are, you probably design them to be OTT on purpose to get the sales.
I've got a point on that down the line, definitely.
That does. So
I think we'll start off with sort of what house rules have we sort of come across. I think in our gaming career, which ones we've sort of used. I think my first experience of house rules was probably when I was learning Warhammer Fantasy back in the day.
Yeah. Okay.
So this had probably been 6th edition. And as a new player to 6th edition, I think there was a lot of. I think when people were showing me how to play, I didn't own a 6th edition rulebook back in the day. And I think there was a certain amount of house rules that were put in because I learned to play in a Games Workshop from the staff members, and I think they had a sort of set of house rules that they kind of agreed on to let new players play without getting too bogged down in the thing, sort of Warhammer light a little bit.
Okay, yep. So they've basically reduced the rules to make it less complicated to essentially get you to grips of the core mechanics of the game.
I mean, I suppose you could say just probably sell you more models to get you pushing models around the table as soon as possible. And then some of the younger players, they kind of kept them playing the sort of almost simplified version a little bit. Whereas, obviously, if you were sort of my age, I was probably about 18 at the time, I played like, they gave me the sort of, oh, just do this instead. You know, when you got to that page in the book. And then as you progressed, you'd eventually end up with the full rule book. And yeah, I said with some of the younger players, they'd sort of just go, oh yeah, and they'd sort of manage their game a little bit more with the house rules. And then, yeah, I suppose as they got older or more experienced, they'd, which was, gets people playing, gets people enjoying the game. Like you said a bit ago, makes it more fun straight away.
Yeah. In my mind, house rules, that's generally what they're for.
Yeah.
As a rule. And to keep it fair, because quite often house rules happen when you're doing exactly that. You're playing people you've never played with before, who are new to the hobby. That's when I found house rules creep in more.
I would say the opposite to that. I would say that the main place you see house rules is against an established game group. So those staff members that taught me how to play Warhammer were old friends. You know, they know each other a long while. They work together every day, and so they sort of built this sort of house rule system. And then I think, other than that, though, when I used to play random people, mostly at Games Workshop games, I never really ran into house rules again until we came to the Bedford Weird Boys. And then, obviously, with an established group of us, that's when we started to maybe come up with some. And then I said my biggest thing, the only time I've personally used and come up with house rules and agreed on house rules was when we were all playing Frostgrave.
Yep.
So I've just brought up my Frostgrave house rules sheet here, and there's a whole side of A4 basically, and some of the stuff was to change how fun the game was, and some of it is to fill holes in the game that we kind of realised when we were playing. So these house rules came from being an established group of players, and from after having played. So the opposite almost of what I was saying earlier a second ago. That was because I was new to the game. We'd played the game a few times and gone, oh, this would be better if.
Yep.
So we put a rule in that ladders, so you can climb anything in Frostgrave for half movement, but we said that stairs didn't require half in the movement, ladders didn't require half in the movement. We put in a rule that animals can't climb ladders, because I've never seen a dog climb a ladder. I'm not sure they would.
And in the rules, they could.
In the rules, there's nothing stopping them. There's no specific. Oh, well, we invented the rule about ladders, I guess. We said that ladders can be climbed without halving movement. So you kind of say, but then technically dogs could climb in Frostgrave, like just up a sheer wall. And then we said that spiders don't halve movement for climbing. That was another
rule. Yep. That makes sense.
I was talking to someone about this the other day, and they said that rule is in Frostgrave Mark II. It might have been in Frostgrave Mark I and I missed it, but apparently that rule is definitely in Frostgrave Mark II, which has obviously been a house ruled enough that it's been fed back, and
back into
we did a few things about the way wizards learn experience, and we made the random monsters appear at a lower threshold, which were ways that we sort of kept the game a bit more exciting, I think. And the experience one as well, we found that combat wizards were gaining experience a lot faster than sort of support wizards.
Yeah.
So yeah, we basically just kind of capped that, which is another thing that was changed for Mark II of Frostgrave. So they were all, for the most part, fixing holes and sort of gaps in the game. And I know that a few of them were changed for Mark II. So that brings me back to my first point, which was we only had to come up with those rules because the original author, Joe, sort of missed them almost.
Okay, but would you say that having to make those house rules took away from the game?
Yeah, I think because when you get to
you
that
think,
point,
you think that the game was a worse game because you had to do that, or had to?
Yeah, I think if the game had been better written, my idea would be that if the better written a game is, the less need there ever is for house rules. Now you can always talk about customization, and I'll get onto that in a bit. But I think for just house rules like those ones aren't there for customization. They were there, to fix what we perceived personally, and they were all agreed on. There was probably others that other people said, and I only included in that document ones that we'd agreed on as a group at the time.
So they were there literally to fill a hole. There were holes or things that are missed, and you just needed to.
Yeah,
you did it out of necessity, not out of want.
Yeah, and I think we'd sort of things like the ladders maybe and the stairs or something. We'd got to a point and we'd gone, oh, this doesn't appear to be covered. And then I guess in some games, if you ever get to that point, I mean, you must have been there at some point or other where you're like, oh, I've got this opinion about how to interpret the rules. You've got that opinion how to interpret the rules. Let's roll a dice for it.
Yeah, definitely.
If you play against that player again, that's the sort of time where I think a sort of established groups, if that situation comes up more than once and you're like, oh, well, for future reference,
there should be a rule.
We'll handle that this way.
Yeah.
And then that's when you'd write it down in a little document like that and say, right, this is our house rule for dealing with this. So that's the
I think there's definitely certain types of games out there that attract house rules. Like Frostgrave is probably a good example of that.
Yeah.
And to a point maybe as well, things like 40k, AOS and stuff, because there are many times in them sort of games where you do have that, let's roll a dice scenario. So, okay, they might be one of those things that happen few and far between, but if they happen more than once, then a house rule starts becoming needed.
And sometimes I think those types of house rules cross over onto FAQ and errata documents as well. This is sometimes stuff that is covered by the publisher. But unless you've got 100 bits of paper.
Question, can you remember ever putting a house rule into something like War Machine Mark II?
No. I never remember as house rule in War Machine.
No, and I don't think you could either, could you? They're just the way the rules were written. It really, if you started putting house rules into that, you see, it would it'd almost kick out all the other mechanics that happen with the game.
Yeah.
Whereas a house rule in something like Frostgrave just won't do that. It won't affect the game that much.
We had a few scenarios, I think, when we sometimes did some of the scenario setups that we did our own way. But then that's just custom scenarios, I think. That's a bit different. That is when I fully approve of it. If you're customizing a game to make it fit your group more.
Well, if you've played all the different scenarios in the book and you want to do something differently, that's not customizing rules at all. That's not adding anything to the rule. You're just adding a scenario.
The one I'm thinking of particularly, I can't remember. It was something to do with like flags and stuff, and I can't remember what made the change. But we played it the same way a few times, and it was purely down to what terrain we had to hand and the way it was set up in the book. We were a bit like, oh, that seems a bit off. Let's just do this scenario like this.
Let's use this river instead of a hill and
but it is kind of like a house rule, but really it was more being creative. And I think there's two different probably purposes of house rules. So the one we've sort of just talked about was fixing problems in a game, like holes in a game.
Yeah.
But then I think you definitely have an option of, I don't know, a lot of people like to customize like the whole
adding flavor to the game sometimes.
Which I think that could be quite positive for depending on the game. But as you say, like something like War Machine, I don't think you could do that really.
War Machine, War Machines is so tightly written. Like I say, I think too much in War Machine it affects other things. So, it's that a house rule would then start affecting things it shouldn't affect. You at least run that risk, something like that happening.
And then you have to start rewriting the whole game. And
exactly.
I've read house rules online that do rewrite chunks of games.
Okay, so right, we're talking. So here you go then. House rules for games that are out of print. So, for example,
okay,
Epic 40,000. So the old Space Marine or the old Epic Comic, whatever it used to be called, is now you can find it all online.
Yeah,
it's sort of got all the original. Say you want you to play Epic Second Edition, you can play all. You can download all the rules, but they've been added to. Okay, so they've picked up. What's happened is that someone's or a team of people have picked up all the renditions through White Dwarfs and stuff like that, and got the core rule book added on top of that core rule book with their with the things from White Dwarf, but then also added in their own flavors. So I don't know. I think maybe back in the day you didn't have necessarily Deaf Company, so maybe there's they put those extra rules in for things like the Deaf Company to get the flavors of the game.
So I think
that is now into that game that was then. So how do you see that? Because that now is a game that's out of print. It's no longer going, but people are still adding to it, so it's still living and breathing.
I think that's slightly different because you're adding
stuff. Is it though? It's a house rule. Those rules that have been added to that are not by the official authors, so therefore it's a house rule.
I guess so, but it's on a wider scale. So you could probably say that all of Blood Bowl for previous to I've lost all the dates now, but previous to Games Workshop reprinting it, massive Blood Bowl tournaments were being played using the living rule book.
Yep.
So I mean, Epic, War Master, any of the old Games Workshop games have all been rewritten.
I mean, 9th edition is just a whole load of house rules, isn't it? Is that not what it is?
9th Age, basically. That's how it started, certainly.
So
and you got the Warhammer Armies project. But like Blood Bowl, for instance, if you have that living rulebook in your hands, you and your friend, or you and your gaming club, I wouldn't say they're house rules unless you, as a group of friends, not because then that is a published thing. Whoever makes Epic. Whoever makes Epic now, though, as a group, I mean, it's all written by committee, isn't it? And
yeah, exactly. No one actually owns it.
But then they output a document. I mean, it might be a constantly changing document, but they do output a specific document.
Yeah. But I'd still call that house rules. It's not the original game. The original game's out of print.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely fan rules, but I think for it to be a house rule, I think me and you would have to have that document in front of us. And then we'd go, no, we don't like the way that works. So when me and you play, we'll do that differently.
Okay, so
I think house rules. My meaning of house rules is probably a smaller scale than that. But I see what you mean. In which case, totally yes, you've taken that game and you have essentially rewritten it. You've house ruled every aspect of it until it is essentially a new game. And I said actually, Mordheim. There's new versions of that, Inquisitor, and all that stuff. There's loads of it, and it's great.
So you approve?
Oh, yeah, I do approve of that. I do approve of that stuff. Because you've taken that game and said you've uplifted it. You've probably
this will not die. It's going to carry on.
You've probably taken 1,000 people's house rules and merged them in.
Yep.
So I mean, pretend Frostgrave didn't get a second edition. And then I don't know, someone randomly came to me and said, "Right, we're going to make a second edition of Frostgrave. Any hints?" The first thing I'd do is I'd pull up that document I was just looking at and go, right.
So, well, spiders climb up walls.
Yeah, let's make spiders climb up walls. Let's have a look about stairs and ladders. Let's have a look
all the important things.
Yeah, I'd be like, can dogs carry treasure? Like, yeah. You'd hit those points first. And so obviously, I mean, that's obviously been done. I mean, I say you get a lot of that stuff from playtesting. If you playtest enough, you'll hit more of it. Which is War Machine was playtested to death. And Kings of War,
it was.
I've been involved in the I mean,
So okay. Sorry, I'm going to jump in very quickly.
Yeah.
So games, like games that are more sort of woolly then.
Mhm.
So that's really where these house rules sort of come in, isn't it? Is when so games like War Master probably is a good example. Actually, funny enough, a lot of games written by Rick Priestley. He's a very sort of woolly kind of rule writer. It's whatever, and he always says in his books, and I leave it for you to
Yeah.
embellish this and make this your own. If you want to add this, you can add that. Now, is that bad rule writing, or is it clever rule writing because it's allowing the customer to then take themselves onto their own journey in the game that he's created? See,
I would say that it's not my preferred style of rule writing.
so you would prefer the more to the line, to the dot, war machine kind of. You do this, this happens, that happens. Then the result is this. You don't pass go, don't collect £200 sort of thing.
Because
You want
if you can comprehend those rules accurately, you can then go anywhere in the world and sit down, and your opponent is playing the same rules as you.
Yeah.
If a stranger came to our Frostgrave group, I'd have to give them an individual document to say, look, these are what we've agreed on, plus the basic rules. It adds an extra level of complexity. You are essentially playing a different game. If you and your mates played 40k for years, and you play 3.5 edition, that's your version of 3rd edition, with a load of stuff from 4th edition that you liked thrown in, using 7th edition armies or something, you're like, that's great. Oh, power to you. You've made a game you like. But then when your new member of the group comes in, and he's like, oh, great, you're playing 40k. Like, what edition are you playing? You have to go, right. What we do is...
Yeah. We don't do that. We still use templates.
Yeah, and it's you've put a level of complexity in between, which is what I'm saying about like the new versions of Blood Bowl and Epic and what have you.
Yeah,
is that you've all globally essentially agreed on a set of rules. If you're going to play Epic now, you probably, I mean, there actually is about 3 different people making it, aren't there, for Epic?
There's kind of, because Epic had different incarnations anyway through GW. So you've got the original sort of more Space Marine one.
Yeah.
Then you have the Titanicus type stuff, but you're right. There are groups of people or committees out there who have been improving on them, or at least keeping them alive, and changing and tweaking things here and there to suit probably the newer things that come in now.
But in general, if you're going to play Epic, you're going to pick one of those 2 or 3 different editions that are out there currently, and you'll.
I think so, yeah.
So like Net Epic seems one of the biggest ones, isn't it? So you could agree. So if someone came to your gaming group and said, "Oh, you're playing Epic, that's cool. What?" And you just say, "We play Net Epic," and you can look that up, download it, read it, come back the next week and be on the same page as you.
Yep.
So that's what I like.
So it's anything that you're playing, but then the house rules really are there for. House rules are really there for you and your mate, not for you and your mate and other people you might know around the world or play around the world.
Exactly.
So I totally get that you. I totally get that. If you're playing a house rules set, a game with house rules, you can't just go somewhere and be like, right, okay, we're gonna play this game. Oh, you're playing it wrong. It's not. We don't play like that. We play it like this.
Yeah.
I get that, but it's not for that. That's not what it's for. It's not for playing with those people. If that was the case, you go and play. You play a different game with them. What it's for is for you to sit down with your best mate, crack open some beers. You're going to play a game that you know you're going to enjoy because you've added and tweaked a few little things that you know pisses you right off for whatever reason, and you're going to have fun. And
you've
it's not a
customized
competitive
it to suit
game.
you.
It's not a competitive way of playing.
Yeah.
House rules generally, and I say that though. I mean, quite often, I don't go to many competitions, but I do know they do house rule quite a few things in competitions for whatever reason it might be, whether it is to dumb things down or to stop like meta lists, or I don't know what it might be, but I don't go enough. But I do know they do that.
And you have to be careful. You have to read the rules packs. Pretty much every event I've ever been to has got a rules pack
Yes, so it'd be 40k with, and these are the house rules. Or
Yeah,
the rules
this
that
is
you have to
a
abide by.
band model lists and and sort of nerfs and stuff sometimes.
So
and limits.
it happens everywhere. Although I was just making a case of the fact that it's more sort of for you and your friends. I mean, it appears everywhere really in the gaming.
And that's fitting the game. So 40k works globally. I can go to a shop and play 40k, and you don't need that sort of document. Whereas you go to that tournament, there's limits about what you can do at a tournament. So as you say, net lists. You don't want to you want to improve the tournament for everybody. So you've customized the game in such a way. Turn limits is a good one, so you can shorten the games down so they fit inside the tournament better.
Yeah.
So that's what the Oathmark event I was at. There was limits to what you could do just to shorten the games down so you can still get half a dozen games in the day.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that you approve of house rules when it comes to competition?
Yeah. I think if I was running an event,
you would have house rules, wouldn't you?
No matter what the game was. I mean, one I can just off the top of my head, the event I went to, the Oathmark event I went to, had one of the first pages was put a 2,000 point army list together, following the army builder rules. No characters allowed, and you get a free prince model or equivalent for whatever race you were. So it meant that we were all playing about 2,300 points lists, and you could concentrate your points on other stuff, and you got that free character to sort of, and it worked as a sort of theme, and there was kind of reasons for it. It was to make sure that everyone had the same character basically, and stuff like that. And I said that was because you were customizing it to fit that situation. And the situation you were talking about earlier is teammates drinking their beers.
Yeah.
And you customize the game to fit that situation. Yeah. No. And so that is a positive use. That's a positive use of house rules.
So what we're saying here is there is a place for house rules in the in the hobbying world, in the gaming world.
Yeah,
there is a place for house rules.
I don't really dispute that. I think they can get out of hand too easily. I think once you've gone down that route, and you get certain people that want to change things. I use Oathmark for an example because that's something I've been about active in recently.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah.
If you look on the Oathmark Facebook group, one week people will be shouting that elves are overpowered, and the next week they'll be saying that elves can't win games. You can't win games with elves. You don't get enough of them. They die too easily. And then a week later, it's like, oh, I'm getting hammered by elves. They don't cost enough. They're way OP. If you let those people, they're potentially running house rules in two different gaming clubs, two different parts of the country. One of them's making elves better, and one of them's making elves worse.
Well, it's called a pinch of salt.
Well, yeah, depending on how bad they are at the game versus elves. And
yeah, exactly. They could be just really bad at playing elves.
When I was playtesting for, we did some playtesting with Graham for Kings of War. I don't know if you remember. I think it was for the Uncharted Empires supplement they did years ago, which was brought in a load of like old Warhammer armies into second edition Kings of War.
I think you and Graham did it as well, didn't he?
Yeah, it was Graham. Graham was the one leading our little gang of playtesters, coordinating it. But if you read all the sort of feedback and the forums and stuff on that, there were some people that were using their very personal, individual experience and their house rules. I do this, and then the game works. And it's like, that's not what they've asked you to do, mate. What they've asked you to do is to follow it by the letter and tell them if that works or not.
Yeah.
They're writing the game. You're seeing if that works. Feel free to say, I've tried this and it does work. But like, that's not. Then they're completely not obliged to listen to you. You're not the one writing the game. Like, give suggestions, sure. I mean, that's good playtesting. That is a good idea. Mm-hmm. But don't just playtest your house rules and give feedback on that. And some people want to change a whole game into their image, and at that point, I'm kind of the opinion. I've seen people do it for some games to the point where I'm like, write your own game. If everything about this game upsets you and you don't like any of the rules, play a different game.
Yeah, that's.
And
Yeah.
I think people,
Yeah.
I think more people should have a go at writing their own games. To be honest, it's a bit of a
Well,
rabbit hole to get down.
Yeah, it is, and they probably realise how hard it is.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of it you've looked at, but you can go down these math rabbit holes of probability. You end up looking at probability charts and working out percentages, and it's mental. The maths that goes into making a game balanced and work.
Gotcha. I mean,
which is why Joe games are sometimes a bit mad. Like Frostgrave uses that D20. And you can go between rolling a 1 and absolutely fluffing a combat and rolling a 20 and just murdering something straight off.
Yeah.
Which is why people get like one-shotted by rats and stuff, because he's not.
Yeah.
The maths is not refined, and people like that. People like that as a game because it's just wild.
I mean, James, that could be its own topic, because what type of dice you use.
Yeah,
is huge. I mean, obviously the larger the range, the more of the averages and stuff you can obtain, which will give different results. Whereas, D6 is actually very limited, and that's probably why.
That's why you roll handfuls of them.
And that's probably that, and it's probably why GW have always struggled. I say struggled, but their rules sometimes have been a bit loose, because it sometimes has to be to take into the consideration for using D6. But that's another conversation altogether. Talking about
one of the common house rules for Frostgrave is to use 2 D10s rather than a D20.
Really, yeah.
Because then you end up with a bell curve, so it all ends up in the average rather than a D20, which is just a straight line. And it makes the game less wacky. For me, I don't know. It's part of the charm of it, but
yeah, sure. For Frostgrave, that's what it's about. It is supposed to be a bit wacky. I mean, that's well, in my opinion,
But then some people say, I'd rather have that more average curve, and I mean that's a really simple house rule to have as well.
It is, but Frostgrave is a funny one, isn't it? Because it's almost certainly not in any way, shape, or form a sort of competitive game. So why it doesn't need that bell curve, because it doesn't need at any point to be be able to work out on the averages to be able to work out your thing, because that's just not the sort of game it is. It is a beer and pretzel game where you throw a couple of models down and you might kill a few monsters.
And if I was playing against someone,
that is it.
Yeah, if I was playing against someone or like a kid or just someone new to the hobby or something like that, and their wizard got one-shotted by a rat and won, I'd probably be like,
damn, man.
I'd probably be like, you know what? Like, he definitely got a limp out of that, but he didn't die. and that's the sort of little house rules, I think. When you're playing something super casually, when you're playing something super, it's not. I wouldn't even say it's a house rule, but you are ignoring a rule to make the game more fun.
Yeah, but is that not how Frostgrave has basically been written in a way? Is it been written in that way where it can be woolly enough to allow you to do that, or at least maybe not woolly is the wrong word. Maybe like so bizarre that it allows you to do that. So the extremes are so far from each other that you can go, it's so extreme. Oh god, wow. No. The little rat guy just killed a 6-ton beast with one shot. That is so extreme. That probably won't happen. Is that when a house rule is totally fine and also almost kind of asked for by the writer?
No, I think I'd still be pretty harsh if it was running as a group and it was an intertwined campaign, and if I was playing versus you and your wizard died first turn to a rat, I'd be just like, ha! And just laugh right in your face. But if it was an unlinked game against someone and you go, well, that's ruined the game for both of us now, like, what do we do? Do we set up again, or do we just fudge it? And I mean, a good example is this 5 parsecs from home, right? So I did a little video and I built a crew up, and that was actually a lot of fun.
We're not sponsored, by the way, but if we do want...
Mephidius Entertainment.
if anyone wants to sponsor us,
I'll take your money. just from our sponsors, Raid Shadow Legends. We wish.
Quick, get them out now. Get it out now. we're going to stop here for our commercial break.
Buy these supplements. I it's completely derailed my thought thing now. Right. So when I was setting up my crew, I started following the rules, but they kind of give you two ways you can kind of build a crew. One's to pick the models first, and then stack them up how you think they'd work, or use the dice, roll the crew out, and then then you have the crew stats, and then you have to try and pick models to match that.
You did a video on this, didn't you?
Yeah. So, but what I did, because I was for me playing just for my own entertainment, so eventually I would get a game out of it. I had a couple of models that I know I wanted to use, so I just started those that way, and then the other ones I kind of rolled randomly, and then when I got to a kind of roll I didn't like, I just rolled it again. So I was breaking rules, twisting rules, but it doesn't affect anyone else. Yeah,
no, but you just put it in your own house. Well, it does affect other people in a way, because you've just changed the character that was going to be because you didn't like it.
It's a fully solo game though, so
of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's a fully solo game, so that doesn't.
So is it completely solo? You can't play against anyone. It's just you.
Yeah, it's just you. It's just you versus the algorithm.
Okay, so then, if that is the case, then house rules are very tempting, aren't they? If you're playing it yourself, you don't like something that happens.
So you have to have quite a lot of thing there.
No one's there to say, "Oh, but that happened." You just go, that dice. I think that was cocked. That's definitely sick.
You can have a certain level of self-control. Otherwise, you're just bashing toys together and making them.
That's more like it. That's the James I know.
Yeah. So you've got to have a bit more self-control to try and follow the rules in that situation.
But you didn't.
I didn't. That was the crew creation. Like when I'm actually playing the game, I've got the crew, and I didn't.
Right. Every time if you play that game and I see a video of it and I see a cut, I know you've changed the rules.
Changed rules. And
you're cutting it out.
This is why during the crew creation video, I did actually do a little shot, a little down shot of my dice tray here.
You did actually. I saw that. No, you're right. You did.
And all the dice rolls were legit. And if I rolled them again, I said that because there was one point I got to a point and I'm like, no, that's not right. That's not his background. But that's because I was doing that hybrid of I had an idea of what I wanted at that point.
No, I totally get that.
And that's where the role playing aspect of the story took over the rules side.
Yeah,
and a really good example actually of a game.
But then is that not then when again another way that house rules find their way into games is people role playing into the game?
So I've got a really clever example of this actually.
Okay,
Arkworld first edition was not a very tightly written game, and the people who wrote it will probably agree.
Oh, I personally can't. I can say I personally didn't enjoy it, but that's
no. But one of the things that Alex, the author, he didn't really write the first one, but Alex, the sculptor, said about it was that he really wanted it to be, house ruled to death. He wanted people to do whatever they wanted in the game, have fun, super casual. You could never turn it into a tournament.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think about ways that I can run a series of linked games using the new set of rules, and it's actually kind of difficult because it's such a casual game that I'm trying to think, how can I? You certainly couldn't run a campaign based on wins and losses, for instance. That would be meaningless. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to run some sort of, I don't know, something in the back of my mind. But anyway, in the second edition, a lot of the rules were a lot tighter. But what got introduced was a rule called feats. And what feats are is it's kind of stolen from like D&D or from other role-playing games, where you go, all right, I want to push a tree down. Mm-hmm. And your opponent goes, all right, well, I reckon there's basically 3 levels. And that'd be easy, medium, or hard. Or the four levels, kind of. So if you say, I want to drink a potion, that doesn't even require... That takes an action, but really, anyone can do that. You can just... You're not going to fail to drink a potion. Just, whoa.
When you had it. Providing you had it, I suppose.
I've got a drinking problem. Like, you're not going to mess that up. No. But if it's going to be, right, I'm going to backflip over this and then take a shot at you with my crossbow, all in one action. you could go, right, I want to do that, and someone would go, right, well, that's going to be a hard thing to do. So I need you to roll. Basically, you have to roll 3 successes, so 3 4+.
Yep.
And then you kind of get to choose how many dice you roll at that, and then it all comes out the sort of action pool and stuff. So it's yeah. So the easier or harder. But you can essentially, using that rule set, do anything you want in the whole game. You can push a tree down, you can jump over something, you can swing on a rope or whatever, and you agree with your opponent, which is why another reason why it can't never be a competitive game. You agree with your opponent, oh, that's going to be difficult, or that's going to be easy, or whatever.
Yeah.
Roll the dice. Oh, I failed. But if you fail to do something like swing on a rope, you've got to kind of come up with
what happened to you?
What happened to you instead? Yeah.
6, you fall on a spike, and 1, you bump your ass type thing, and
you just kind of go. Yeah, even if you don't even like do another roll, you just go, right. I tried to swing on this rope, the rope fell off. Fell down.
Okay,
and you kind of, and then you can do, if you get this success off, and you can do, I've seen things in the little demo Artworld games where people have rolled all these 6s, and it's just come up all 6s, and then they've gone, right, that's it. Yeah, I've just double backflipped and sniped you from distance.
What you've done here, right? You started this chat today with I hate house rules.
No,
okay.
So
wait. Just wait until I finish, and then you can jump in and tell me I'm wrong. Okay. But you started saying that you don't agree with them. It's a sign of a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
However, you are. I know you're very fond with Artworld, or at least the games that have preceded it, and they are all like that, and they're all kind of things that you enjoy. The silliness about wargaming, you enjoy the silly things that happen in wargaming. That's why you have a big goblin army, because you love that random
in the situations. Yeah.
Now that's where the house rule comes in and gives you the randomness, the bizarreness.
This is my point.
That's what a guy is saying to do.
Yeah.
Oh, add your role playing, your house rule into this position.
So in first edition, that would have been house rules. In second edition, that is enshrined in the rule book. So there's no house. That's not a house rule anymore. It's included in the rules.
I'm not agreeing with that. I disagree with that.
It's in the rules.
But what they've done is, here, insert your house rule. That's what they're saying.
But it's giving you a mechanism to cope with it. So in a role-playing game, you can do anything you want.
You say that's no different to GW saying, right, okay, if this happens, just roll a dice. 1 to 3, this does this. 4 to 6 does that.
Yeah, that's the rule.
It's the same thing, but it's still
not a house rule. It's not a house rule because Games Workshop said it. It's a rule. It's just a rule.
Maybe, but I think.
So if you're playing D&D, right, unlock that chest. Okay, how do you do that? You can do anything. You can say, I'm gonna just slap that guy in the back of the head. You can do anything you want. Yep. And what do? You take a skill check.
Yeah.
So in pretty much any situation, you say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to seduce that barmaid. Skill check. She slapped me in the face.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the same as that. So in Artworld, it's a skirmish game, and then you go, right, I'm going to slap that goblin on the ass. And it's like, well, that's an easy feat. Oh, you failed. I don't know. He stabbed you.
You're dead. Oh dear. Your mage wizard of level 20 is now dead.
I'm about to be murdered by a dragon. I'm going to seduce dragon, a la Shrek. All right, that's like 3. That's a hard feat. 3 6s, please. No, you're a cinder. Or you just those 6s shine up, and you're like, right, little hybrid dragon babies, and you're like. And it's all it's in the rules because they've included the mechanism to do it.
I think it's a point of view here, a different perspective. Because I would almost say that role playing is just a guiding set of rules that allow you to create your own house set of rules.
See, I think you're using house rules too liberally, I think.
I don't know if I am.
Okay.
I don't know if I am, because everyone will play D&D differently. No one group will play D&D the same.
100%. Well,
Right?
no.
And why is that? Is because the rules don't say the you're not this is you're all following the same set of rules, but you're playing the game, and I'm almost certain that you a one group to another group will play the game very differently.
I don't think it's the groups either. I would say it's one DM. I think you could have the same group of 5 people, and
DM,
and the DM changes that fundamentally.
exactly. But then he creates the rules. So he's creating the house rules. You are playing under his house. It's house rules. So then I put it to you that the Ark world is very similar in that they try to create a role-playing element to the game, which then gives you that ability then to create those house rules. Not to say, because they don't say, right, when you're trying to swing on a swing 1 to 6, 1 to 2 you fail, and 3 to 6 you pass.
Yeah,
it's what it's now up to you to make that be the case. So then surely that becomes a house rule, because then once you've done it once in that game, on that house rule, you kind of maybe follow that pattern next time. You almost certainly will.
Yeah, I guess so.
You go back to each other and go, oh yeah, remember that time when my goblin, he had swung on the swing and he fell off and he hit his arse? Yeah, we'll probably have to do something very similar to this time, because you're trying to swing on a vine this time, but actually, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, man, the difficulty level is a little bit higher now because the thing might break, or so. But then you're going back onto a house rule that you used previously in the game.
Yeah, and I think if you played someone enough Ark World or enough D&D that you built up that kind of
exactly
thing.
Yes, exactly. So I'm putting to you now that you enjoy that type of game. So you do
enjoy it differently.
You do enjoy house rules, and therefore your first statement is wrong because you enjoy it. Yes, it's wrong. You enjoy them.
No, yes. I don't, because
I'm telling you,
my first statement's still correct, because I still think that's all covered under not being house rules, because there is
all you want to play is War Machine.
Well, I prefer a narrative game. I prefer a fun, casual game, beer and pretzels. Yes. But I want my game to be casual, but my rules to be set in stone.
House rules.
No, I prefer my rules to be set in stone. I do like that aspect of Ark World.
I know you do. And I do, and you like that aspect of role playing games. When you play a role playing game, you enjoy it because you get into them characters.
There was one of the best mechanisms I ever saw in a role playing game was for the Star Wars one, and you could fail badly. No, sorry, you could succeed badly or fail well. So, for instance, you're trying to snipe someone, and you succeed, but you succeed badly. You shoot them straight through the head, but they stagger backwards and press the alarm anyway.
Yep, I get that. Yep.
You miss their head because you failed, but you actually just took out the main control box for the alarm.
Yeah. Things are flying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
that's clever.
So your thing you're actually trying to do, shoot a guy in the head, is a success or fail, but there's the second level to that, and if you get that dice result and you're like, well, I've succeeded, but something bad happened, you have to. It forces you to role play to just work out that scenario.
But that has only come about because a clever DM guy has created a house rule that is a thing.
Well, no, that's the rule. That is the rules of the game.
Oh right. I mean, I've never played a role-playing Star Wars game, so I don't know if that
uses a very custom set of dice, basically, and the way the symbols come up.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
So it's a very tightly written game.
It is a very tightly written game, and I liked it. I like that mechanic. I like the fact that it had all of that built into essentially one dice roll. Yeah. And the different dice, however, what colour dice you used and what dice you threw was all down to your skill level and and stuff like that. And then you had perks that could add and take away bits and pieces. I mean, we only played the demo sections of it, but it was I'd actually be quite interested to play that again, especially with all the Mandalorian and Boba Fett stuff we've been seeing recently. That feels much more that sort of scale, you know?
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah, definitely. So, I think coming to the end of this, then, James. I think I have proven to you that actually you do like house rules, and actually I think you need house rules to enjoy your games.
I would say that, very much like the end of all of these, my answer is 50-50.
It does mean we have swayed you a little bit from your initial statement.
I think that what I could do is I can partition off two separate things. So I'd say I've got two problems with house ruling to fix something. If you've seen a fault or something that's unclear or something you don't like, if you don't like something in the mechanics of a game, even if it's technically covered and it works, I think that's to a certain extent the fault of whoever wrote the game in the first place. Either it wasn't clear or you didn't like the way it worked. Even if just your little group doesn't like the way it worked and everyone else in the world's fine with it. Elves are too powerful, elves are too weak, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that if you start changing too much stuff on that front, I think you end up playing a different game, and I don't think any of that's good. So I don't think it should be required, and I don't think you should change too much of it. And I would still say that all of that I just mentioned comes under my initial statement. On the other side, changing things, being creative, making a game more fun, 100%. 100% you should do that. As long as you still... I just don't ever want to lose sight of a shared set of rules, because without following the rules, if you start making up your own rules willy-nilly, then there's no point in having a rule book. You could just play make-believe.
Yeah.
And that's the danger with solo, but, just...
Yeah.
I think... Which is why I like the fact that in, say, Art World, my example, is they encapsulated that. They went, all right, this is kind of first edition, have fun. Second edition, this is specifically encapsulated. This is, we've made a mechanic to pin that down a little bit.
Yeah, albeit it's up to you to make that rule.
Yeah, up to you to choose. Yeah, you do. Oh, yeah. I mean, the only bit you have to kind of agree on is the difficulty level of any particular action.
Yeah. Well, that's not true. You have to agree on the action, because it says it's not like if you want to knock a tree down, it's a special feat, isn't it? It doesn't tell you what that feat might be, so you have to come up with what you're going to do. Yeah,
the feat is you have to you have to role play. You can role play anything you want, and then so you suggest a thing, and then you and your opponent say how easy or hard that'd be, but there's a scale, basically. And I think that's good that there's that mechanic to play the game how you want, but you're not changing the way the game works, because that is the way the game works. But I can see that it is a cop out now. From your point, you've built house rules into the game in your sort of way of looking at it.
But I do agree with you though. I do agree with you when it comes to having to insert house rules as a necessity to make the game playable. That's when house rules the game just maybe you shouldn't even play the game.
Yeah,
maybe you should turn around and say this isn't the game for me, because if I've got to fundamentally change this game to make it playable, why am I playing? There's a lot of other games out there that I probably would enjoy. I think you got to ask yourself that question. Is it because I'm getting pressured into playing this game because everyone plays this game, or is it because I like the models, or there's probably something that's making you play that game. Yeah, but I think you'd need to sort of say to yourself, really, do I want to play this game if it's making me feel like this?
I think a lot of people have that view on Frostgrave, or had that. I mean, first edition when it was big and everyone was playing it. I think there were certain people, views I read online, videos where people said this game is too vague. you know, you'd have to do too much work to make it playable the way I want to play it. So I'm just out, and I've got respect for that, because I think there were holes in the first edition for sure. And I think you go right to the other extreme, and you've got people that do write their own. If you look in like the war games, miniature wargaming, every week there was essentially they wrote a whole new game just to play out one specific scenario. So that was a whole game that was essentially just two guys' house rules to play out that very specific scenario, whether it be zombies or whatever, or a particular historic little fight. And I think, as you say, you got two mates drinking a beer, you two agree on it. It doesn't have to be written down anywhere.
No, definitely, and and that's where and that's when the house rule is totally worth it. If it's something that's mutually shared with someone, and it just creates that much more enjoyment, nothing wrong with it.
But if it's a game though, as I said, once again, it all comes back to if we played a game, we might put some house rules in something though. But do we genuinely think that we're better game designers than Rick Priestley?
No.
So. I mean, which you potentially have to think about that. Like, if a lot of people that make house rules and that do go over the top, you think, well, like, what experience? Yeah, you personally might find that more fun, but that's not the reason why a game's made and written down for you personally. It's for everyone to agree on a joint set of rules. Like, you personally might find it more fun in chess if the pawns could do shooting, had a shooting phase. You personally might love that house rule, but that's not the game.
Yeah, no.
So I think,
and there are times, obviously, people who like Rick Priestley who have written countless games. There's going to be areas that get missed, or maybe weren't thought about quite as much.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to the game designer as well. Different game designers have different design points, and the way they want to play it. I said Alex made this casual. Whoever writes War Machine makes it harsh. Is it Alessio Calvatore or whatever that does all the Warlord stuff? Very tight game design there, I think, in the most part. I said, we didn't throw very many house rules at sort of bolt action or K-47, did we? I don't think.
No, never. No, I like. I mean, bolt action's a good fun game.
Even though certain people wanted to nerf flamers and things like that, I don't think we ever actually agreed on it. So, because it's I think I like sticking to what's written down. I like doing what I'm told. I somewhat concede that the creativity side of house rules can be fun.
So I think we can agree there is a place for house rules, but it's got to be monitored.
And you can't let it get out of hand. And if it takes if you require house rules for it to be functional as a game, probably isn't the best game,
or the game for you,
or at least not the game for you.
I'll tell you that there's probably a bit of mileage in this. Actually, again, we might have to revisit this, and maybe with someone else, get another opinion on that.
Or we could merge it onto a topic about game design, maybe.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Guys, if there's anything you want us to talk about on this, or anything else you'd like to explore, remember, get that in the comments, because we love to see those comments. And
definitely. And
it's a source of ideas for us.
What are your thoughts on house rules? Do you do them?
Yeah.
Are they a big part of your gaming life, or do you hate them? Please, again, comments below. Let us know what you think, and let's open up a discussion about it, because it's really, really very interesting. It's very interesting.
Cool.
So, James, just before we go, I was just thinking, just a quick shout out for Warp Block Miniatures, for there'd be quite a thing in this feature, and since that you've got some miniatures that you'll be sharing with us maybe in the next few days, maybe just give them our sort of recommendation of the week, maybe.
Yeah, recommendation of the week then. There's two arms to Warp Miniatures at the moment. So there's the digital workshop. So there's a Patreon with a monthly release of miniatures that you can also pick up from My Mini Factory. And there's also the sort of traditional sculpted side. So at the moment, for the game Arc World, that's all. It's starting to move more towards digital, but that's mostly hand sculpted miniatures. I'll stick a link to the shop in the description. And and then there's the digital side as well, which are stuff. So, for instance, kobolds aren't in Ark World; they're not part of the Ark World sort of lore, but they're just fun little sculpts that you can use in all your other games.
Yeah, and they're very nice too. Very nice too.
Lovely sculpts.
So, guys,
lovely characterful sculpts. So lovely characterful sculpts from a lovely sort of one-man band / family sort of business that it's good to support. But carry on.
Yeah. Are you finished, James?
I'm finished.
Right.
See us out.
So, guys, we're going to leave it there.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Hope you did.
And as always, we'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you later. See you later, guys.
Bye.